Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Module 5. So I hope everybody's having a great week, and let's get started. So this week we're going to talk about risk and its interplay with HR functions. And you should be able to see on the screen the learning objectives for the week, and there are a couple there, as well as the module overview. So basically we're talking about how risk is dealt with from an HR perspective. Now, I've worked in organizations where you are also the risk manager, but most of the time in the healthcare setting, risk management has its own specific department. Now, most organizations and most hospitals that I've worked in, that risk manager is a department of one, much like a lot of the HR functions are, but they address a lot of the risk concepts. Other organizations and industries, risk management may be rolled into another function. So it just depends on the size and the type of industry in which you're dealing with. Risk can include everything from safety to policies related to safety to OSHA requirements and things of that nature. But it also includes a number of other factors that we're going to talk about this week. So I'm going to scroll down so I can advance my screen here just a little bit. So, this week, as with most weeks, goodness, you can tell it's a Monday. Reading, so chapter 3 in the textbook, and then there's also an article and a video. And then down in the additional support, we can see a couple of a video and a reading. The reading on how to create a memo with template and examples is pretty decent, and one of the things you're going to be doing this week is Project 1, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in depth in a second. But as part of that, there are 2 memos that you'll be creating, so that article might be of great benefit to you as you prepare to craft that assignment. So let's see. All right, Project 1. So I'm going to switch screens here just a little bit. So essentially, and if you read the scenario, and I'm not going to read it to you, it's the same scenario that you had last week, in which you're investigating a Department of Labor complaint regarding the employees and they're not being paid properly. So most of you have identified that there are issues related to their pay, which is great. I don't know of anybody that hasn't determined that they are considered non-exempt employees. And remember, non-exempt is often associated with hourly, although it doesn't have to be. But non-exempt means that they are not exempt from receiving overtime. So anything over 40 hours in a week is going to be paid at that time and a half rate. And everybody got that correct. So kudos there. Now, again, I want to emphasize that in this class, we may talk about Texas or another state. Generally speaking, when I talk about regulations and stuff, we're talking about federal regulations, because there, particularly when it comes to pay, there are so many different minimum wage standards based on different states and or localities. For example, in New Mexico, the $12 is the state minimum wage rate, but there are 5 different cities or counties throughout New Mexico that have even different minimum wage rates. So you need to be aware of that. Depending on where you're at, or depending on where your workforce is located, you may have different minimum wage rates or different employment laws that you'll have to address in that regard. So back to the general assignment here. So Project 1, you're going to see, again, you're going to continue to look at those timesheet records and figure out what's going on. But here we're also going to look at the employee handbook sample, and that is in the supporting materials section down below. So we're going to want to look at those things and see what's going on. What you're going to submit, and you can see here specifically what we need to get is the complaint investigation. That's the FSLA worksheet that you've already done. So please take a look at that. I tried to put comments on everybody's, and I know there was a couple I was running late getting stuff graded that I may not have got in. But you want to make sure that that is completed correctly. Hate for you to lose points because you didn't take the time to go Oh, yeah. Um, a little caveat, a couple of you selected some exemptions. They are not exempt. These employees will not be exempt. They are going to be non-exempt employees. So if you went through the worksheet and you selected any type of exemption, you probably need to revisit that second page where it talks about the instructions on the worksheet. So, but then your risk memo, and and I'm going to scroll down just a little bit so you can kind of see some things here. Um, so you're going to do that worksheet, but then you've got your risk memo. That's going to be fairly similar to what you submitted last week, but please do not turn around and resubmit the same assignment, because if you do, you're going to miss the mark on that just a little bit. So you can see preliminary conclusions, 3 to 4 paragraphs, basically outlining what you're concerned about, what the organization needs to be concerned about, what the organization needs to do to address those things. And then you're going to, second memo is your manager memo, and this is going to be the results of the handbook analysis and then what needs to be changed there. And the sample handbook is in the supporting materials that you should be able to see below there. And since we've got it on the screen, I'm going to scroll down just a little bit more, and you can see the rubric here. So proficient, this middle column is kind of the meets the mark. Complete the worksheet, submit it. Some of you did not submit the worksheet, which will cause problems there. So make sure you get that done this week. Your risk memo should present findings. Are they non-exempt or exempt? And we've kind of let the cat out of the bag on that. So if you thought they were exempt, please rethink that. And then, are they being paid correctly or not? So many of you provided examples, and a couple of you even included a table or a chart, and that is outstanding. I really like to see that. And then your risk memo talks about the risk. So I will tell you, you can take a lot of the stuff that you created in the Unit 4 memo and use that in your risk memo here, but please don't resubmit it for a couple of reasons. One, it flags it as a plagiarized document, and then I look at it and say, oh, well, it's your previous document. And it's kind of an interesting scenario here, because really they consider submitting your own work in another assignment as plagiarism, but in this particular case, it's not really, because it's a second part of an assignment. So I would encourage you to take the feedback that you received, edit that, revise it, and then you can resubmit it. So it makes it kind of nice in that respect. And then, of course, your manager memo, you're going to have the gaps in the handbook, the policy violations, and then any recommendations you have there. Additionally, the risk mitigation. How do you correct it? What do we need to do to fix it? And then the usual articulation of response and citations. I noticed several of you did not use any references. Please, if you get an opportunity, there's great opportunities to use some references, but don't forget to put in the in-text citation as well as the reference page. So, in addition, there's a quiz this week, so that's a pretty standard fare. I'm not going to drive into that too much. I want to get finished up. I'm seeing some great work, and you guys should be proud of yourselves for that. I know there's a lot going on in our lives, so kudos for everyone on that. If you need something, please reach out. I'm available most of the time and happy to set up a meeting or just exchange an email if that's what we need to do. So otherwise, everybody have a great week, and I will see you in the classroom.